Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the Rolex Submariner date, reference 116610LV, and that LV basically makes this the green sub, otherwise known as the Hulk, or any other number of nicknames out there. I've seen Kermit, that's one of them. I just go with green sub. Now, there's sort of a subculture of what they call green dialed Rolex watches, and Rolex has what you might call unofficial anniversary watches, when they have an anniversary piece to celebrate the anniversary of whatever it is. I don't even remember what anniversary this one was trying to celebrate. They produced something with some green element. So prior to this, I think the last green sub had a black dial, but a green aluminum bezel. This is the newest generation of Submariner watches, and so you have a ceramic bezel, and as far as I know, this is the only Rolex watch right now with a green ceramic bezel. Now, when this first came out, this was definitely a controversial watch. The 116610LV was, it was, I don't want to call it, it was a strange Rolex, but conservative people who wanted, just the normal black dialed or even the blue dialed Submariner saw this as being just kind of a little bit strange. And that's normally the case when you have a Rolex that comes out that isn't universally loved by everyone. I like this watch. I got this one a couple years after it came out. I've been thinking about it for a while. I remember when it first came out, I thought to myself, well, I do like the color green a lot. And I didn't do anything, and for years I'd hear some people say that this is the coolest one. You'd see celebrities wearing it. They'd hear other guys be like, that's lame. Nobody wants a green Rolex. It's all about the black one. This isn't cool. And you know what? I don't really care what anyone says. I think it was brilliant, and I like it a lot. There's a premium for this one. It costs a little bit more than the comparable Submariner date. I do want to show you the color comparison. What's interesting about this watch is if you look, there's a kind of, I'll call it a powder green green ceramic bezel, and then you have a metallic green dial. And what's interesting is that sometimes they look like the exact same color, sometimes they don't. It really depends on the light. So the green ceramic bezel and the green metallic dial, they just sort of, they play with the light differently, and I think they always look kind of cool. Rolex also likes to slightly play with the color green, and green is also important because that's sort of Rolex's official color. And the superlative chronometer certification, which is a new way of sort of Rolex talking about how accurate their watches are and how reliable they are, is sometimes also internally called the green seal. So that's kind of a cool thing. So I want to show you, before I put the watch on, the comparison in color between two of these. So we have here my no date sub, which appears to just want to be in the light. And then you have the green one. So you can see it's a significant difference. What I'll say is that the green one in certain light, for example, if you are in a dark restaurant or something like that, it doesn't quite look green. It doesn't quite look black. There's sort of a mysterious quality to it, which I find to be quite interesting. I think you'll notice that the different color makes these watches look quite distinct. These watches are identical, aside from the date window and the Cyclops magnifier, because this is the Submariner date. This is the Submariner, aka the no date. But you can see that the different color really makes a difference in terms of what the watch looks like. So I'll put on this one. If you don't recall, the Submariner is a 40mm wide watch, but it wears large because the lugs are relatively wide. So I normally I'm not really into 40mm wide watches, but this one I have no problem. So there we go. There's the black Submariner. Classic look, unbeatable, looks great. Now all of a sudden you have a watch that has a classic look, that is timeless, but adds something a little bit different. It adds one element of controversy. And I think that's what I really like about the green sub, is that it takes something it takes something you like, and it adds one principal difference that creates a degree of controversy. And if you've read my writing before, you probably know that at times I've spoken about my love of controversy in designs. And what I mean by that is if a watch is too non-controversial, I'm not really into it because there's just not really anything interesting. But if you take something that has some controversy but is otherwise a great product, I get into it, especially if I'm sort of on the approval side of that controversy. So I guess you could say that while this is not inherently a controversial watch, green is not a color you typically see on luxury timepieces. Of course, from time to time it is, but not typically. So the element of green creates a little bit of controversy in a very timeless product, the Rolex Submariner, and that formula right there is really a winning combination for me. Of course, the Submariner for a dive watch is relatively thin. I think it's about, I want to say about 10 or 11 millimeters thick. A lot of people are not big fan of the Cyclops date. I like it. Again, I have the other version of the watch that doesn't have it. I like them both equally. They're just a little bit different. Rotating diver's bezel, of course. Water resistance of 300 meters. All the text on the dial that some people love and some people think is too much. And yes, there is, you know, a lot of text on the dial. But now that it says superlative chronometer, that actually means something these days. It used to just be, well, I'm not really sure what it meant historically, but now that's a certification that Rolex has. Inside the watch is the Rolex produced caliber 3135 automatic movement with the date, of course. And I think what's interesting about this watch is that many people know that the price cost between the Rolex Submariner date and the no date is about $1,000. So for the date wheel, the different dial, and the Cyclops magnifier on the crystal, that's a entire $1,000, but it's Rolex, so it's worth it. Of course, the Submariner also has the great glide lock system in here, which I love. So what you do is you pull out the bracelet a little bit here, and you can slide it along, and you have many millimeters, probably I'd say maybe 2, even 3 centimeters of play, and that's great because you can, you know, vastly adjust the size of the watch, and it's good if you want a friend to wear it. But also what's better, of course, in addition to wearing it over a wetsuit, which it was designed for, but if you have a day where your wrist sort of expands because it's hot and humid, you can make the watch a little bit looser, or if you want it to be a little tighter, you can do that. And do not downplay that, the value of that. The glide lock, as well as other watches in the industry that have those types of what I call micro adjust bracelets, once you go to that and you go to like a normal bracelet that doesn't have that, or a more traditional one, you're like, I really miss that functionality. So again, this is the Rolex Submariner date 116610LV. The green sub, the Hulk, the Kermit, whatever you want to call it. The movement is the caliber 3135. It's a modern 4 Hertz movement with about 48 hours of power reserve. Really cool watch. I like it a lot. Excellent part of my collection. Retail price is $9,050, so that's a $500 premium over the black version. And again, that's just something you have to take into consideration. One last thought about this is this is not a limited edition. Rolex doesn't do limited editions, but this is what I would call a temporary piece. The black Submariner is a watch that they have produced for many years, since the early 50s, and they will continue to produce for many years. But this is the type of watch which is only produced temporarily. Will Rolex say how temporarily and in what numbers? No, but this is definitely the less common version, and so it's kind of the watch that you get it now while they're still making it, and then it will slowly begin to become more and more of a collector's item. That's my opinion. Of course, I can't predict what all collectors will do, but this is the type of thing in the future I believe will be the collector's item, because it'll be, you know, not terribly uncommon, but think of 10 or 20 years from now when Rolex has clearly stopped making these. I think it'll be one of those things that people look back on and be inherently cool. And also because the green ceramic of the bezel and the way that the dial is made, these are colors which have what I'll call permanence. And so they're going to look as great then as they do now. You can see the full review and more about this on aBlogtoWatch. Thanks.